What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Creative James Media YouTube channel. My name is Matt, and I'm the social media manager here at CJM. Today, we've got another author interview for you. Today, we're talking to Miss Isabelle Ranney about her book, which is coming out soon, called Falling in Time, some of her writing habits, and whatever else we can dig into. If you guys love our channel and help supporting our authors, please drop a like on the video, comment whatever you want, your favorite thing or that you enjoyed the video, and please consider subscribing to the channel to help us reach that 100. So without further ado, Isabelle, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm pretty good. We're just fighting the storms here in the
Yep.
Midwest. For those who don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Isabelle Ranney, and I am a romance author. I've been reading and writing for a really long time. And I kind of realized that one of my favorite things, whether it's books or television, it's always the romance. It's always coming back to people getting together, the chemistry, falling in love. So I decided to start writing my own romance a couple years ago. And I write a romance that is spice free, which means it's kind of think Hallmark level. So anybody can read it. And so spice free, but still with plenty of chemistry.
Very nice. Yeah, I was about to say that sounds so much just Hallmark
Yes.
Channel-esque.
Yes. Definitely Hallmark-esque. So if people, everybody likes Hallmark. So it's very approachable and accessible for everybody.
That's also good from a sales standpoint too, because then you're not alienating a certain age range,
Right.
because of the content.
Exactly. And also I have two daughters and they're 10 and 12, and I like that they can read my books.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, because then you're like, oh, you can't read mom's book. We didn't, we let some things in there.
Right, right.
Um, why don't you tell us a bit about your book, Falling in Time?
Sure. So my book, Falling in Time, is about a curator, museum curator, who's named Paige. And she has always been very enamored with the family that lives. She works in a house museum. It's a house that was built in the 1890s. And she's always been very enamored with the family who lives there, and in particular, the two older brothers, very handsome gentlemen. And one day she finds a brass key and she uses it in an old stone arch, and she travels back in time to 1915. And she gets to meet the family who lives there. And she's especially taken with Jonathan, who's one of the brothers, who's very kind and handsome. They have an instant connection. But she knows that he is fated to die in a train accident in 1916. So she has met him a year before she knows he's going to die. So throughout the book, she goes back and forth between the past and the present, and learns more about the past, gets to know them, and she finds herself falling more and more in love with him. And she kind of has to decide, what is she going to do? I mean, she can't change the past, but she doesn't really want to let him just die and have to leave him either. So it's about kind of her adventures in the past, getting to know him, experiencing 1915, and also the connections between the past and the present, which I find so interesting. And it's one of the reasons that I wrote the book.
So is it like she's going back multiple times, or is this a one trip? She learns everything and then
Yes. She goes back multiple times. And the first time is really kind of by accident, and she thinks it's all a dream. But then she tries it again, and it's like, no, this is real. I'm really going back in time. So in the present, the museum is encountering some trouble. Anyone who works in a small museum knows that it's always hard to get financial support from the town, support from the board. I've worked in a lot of museums, so this is, as a curator, so this is kind of firsthand stuff for me. And so the museum is threatened with closure in the present. And in fact, there are some people who want to close it down and tear the whole thing down, tear the whole house down and get rid of all the estates, which is completely heartbreaking to Paige and everybody who works there. So she's trying to maybe use some things from the past to try to save the museum in the present. And I mean, whenever I worked in museums as a curator, I always really wanted to bring the past to life. And because I think that's how people understand it. History can often seem very dusty, very old, very boring. I love history. I think there's so much to learn about history. And Paige feels like that too. and especially when she actually gets to experience it in time. So she wants people in the present to understand how important this house is, the story of the people who lived there, all the artifacts that are there. Another thing I include in the book, I've done a lot of work with historical textiles. So gowns from colonial times, Victorian times, turn of the century. And those gowns and the clothing, they tell a lot about the people who wore them, even little things like, did they have zippers yet? Did they have buttons? How did they put them on? How could you move in this kind of dress? What did children wear? Fun fact, boys used to wear pink and girls used to wear blue. Pink was seen as a stronger color and blue was seen as more delicate color. Wasn't until about the 1940s that switched over. Also, boys used to wear dresses. Boys and girls used to wear dresses until about age 11 or 12 when boys would switch over to pants. And that was just like a turn of the 20th century change. So there's so much to learn about the past, which connects us. We're still connected.
Right.
And this book literally brings that together. The past and the present are connected. And so I hope that readers will be able to connect with that, learn a little bit about the past too, and also experience this love story.
Right. Now that you mentioned that dress thing too, that kind of is intriguing because I love watching like old historical movies or just in general movies that are set in periods other than ours because you get to see so many more stories that you wouldn't normally get to encounter. And I see the blue dresses all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes, and when you said that, I was like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense now why I see a lot of blue dresses.
Yes. No, and a lot of things. And even also, people have thought that brides have always worn white for their weddings. And that was Queen Victoria. That was like the late 1800s. Women just used to wear their nicest dress. I remember working in a museum where there was a wedding gown and it was brown. It was a beautiful gown, but it was brown silk and not what we would think of today. And so Queen Victoria wore white and she also had orange blossoms in her hair. And of course, she was young, beautiful, trendy. And so people started to wear white. But even then, it was only the upper classes that could afford, white for their wedding gowns. So again, a lot of what we think is like built in stone really comes from the 1940s and the 1950s. So that was a really fun thing with this book to do research on the clothing that they're wearing, the accessories they would have, the etiquette. And the first season of Downton Abbey is also set in this same time period. So, people can always also revisit Downton Abbey and look at the clothing and, all the architecture and everything. So that was really fun with this to delve into that and to, help transport readers back to that time.
Right. Definitely. It's definitely fun getting an inside look at things too, especially when you can tell that there's things in there that people might not every day know because the writer is so passionate about it. It pulls through and you can kind of feel yourself kind of wanting to know more because they're explaining every little thing and kind of describing it good enough that you can visually see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without giving too much away, of course, was there a character in Falling in Time that was harder for you to write than others?
Yes, I would say Jonathan, who is the male main character, the love interest. He was probably the hardest because he's an Edwardian gentleman, and I am neither of those things. I was able to relate with Paige because we're both museum curators, but so that was interesting to kind of get in his mindset about what kind of language would he use. How familiar would he be with her? How would he connect with her? How would he feel about his role as, a son of this wealthy family that has, railroad interests? And that's, kind of what he's supposed to be, this role he's supposed to be inheriting. So, so it was an interesting process to kind of get into his head and think about where he's coming from and what choices he would make.
Right. Yeah, I always love hearing the answer to that question because I've had a few people who are like, yeah, I can't pick one because they were all good, but also so out of my element that I had to do enough research. And so I couldn't really be like, well, this one because I didn't have to do any research. But I think it definitely helps when you can research the character because if you if you're like, oh, well, I want to keep it as period correct as possible, unless you're an expert, you're going to have to do some research. And then you
Yes.
can just get as descriptive as you want. Um, would you say that you enjoy more character building or world building?
That's a good question. Um, I mean, I would have to say both. Certainly, it's fun creating the characters who are inhabiting the world, but I really do enjoy the world building as well, especially the time travel. When Paige steps through the first time she steps through the gate and she's in this place that looks so familiar and yet not quite, it's wonderful to think about revisiting the places that we know so well 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and what little thing, what are the same, what's different, what things would tip you off that you're in a different time period. So I really like to think about that. I think about, the nature, like that tree in the front yard is suddenly smaller, it's not there. The street's not paved anymore. Now it's cobblestone, or maybe it's dirt. Do we have cars, or there's no cars? We just have carriages. Is there music playing on a radio, or has the radio not been invented yet? So
Right.
I like to think about those little details that would kind of make you figure out where exactly am I? What time period am I in? So, and also thinking about her, she goes down Main Street and the old shops that were there, and what would be the products people would be buying? What are
Right.
people wearing? So I really enjoyed creating the world building of 1915 and the house too. So people can really feel like they're there. They can
Right.
imagine they've gone back in time with Paige.
The architecture is my favorite. I am a junkie for architecture. Like, we will go on vacation and drive around every small town we can find
Hmm.
just to see the styles of houses and are there still original buildings and the brickwork, and I don't know, it's just something
Hmm.
about you're able to stare at it and it literally just transports you because you're like, oh, that's different. And that's why it's still here, because of the materials they used and the
Right.
way the building was. Like, nowadays, good luck finding a home that's built now to last you 80, 90, 120 years.
Right.
It just doesn't happen.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's it. They built things to last. They built
right,
them and they really wanted to stand the test of time and put so many details in.
right.
I mean, when you look around, like the scroll work and arches and things that are not necessary for the structure of the house, but
Hmm.
they added it to just make it look classy, to look really artistic. And all the different schools of architecture
Yeah,
and like how there's a colonial revival in the late 1800s because, it was just like now is an interest in the anniversary of the United States. And so, and then, there's Greek revival and Federalist styles. There's so many different styles out there. Really, really fascinating.
right,
So I don't know as much about that as I do about the clothing, but loved including some of those
right.
details too, because absolutely buildings are a big thing that can really set
Yeah,
the time period for sure.
yeah. There was a town we went to a couple months ago. It's a really Dutch town. It's not it was and founded by the Dutch, so they kept a lot of that heritage in the shops and the windmills.
Mhm.
But all their streets were pretty much a majority of their streets were still brick,
Oh,
um,
that's impressive.
which was amazing, but hard on the car sometimes.
It's true. It's much slower going doing the
Yeah,
cobblestone and a lot of that stuff gets worn down over time, but it's nice when they sometimes will make those area like a pedestrian only street
yeah,
and then you can just kind of like stroll around and then it really does feel like it did,
yeah.
100 years ago.
It's great. I mean, I love that stuff. I could talk about that for hours. um, what writing habits that you have turned out to be one of your biggest advantages when writing this book?
Okay, well, one thing is I write my books out of order. I don't, start with chapter one and then go two, three, four, I write what I'm really excited about. So for me, books always start with like kind of like a scene. And because it's romance, it's usually the scene when either they like first meet each other or when they end up together at the end. So in this case, I really had this image of the ending when they, when they, got back together. And I just had that image in my mind and the whole book kind of spanned out from that. And so sometimes I will write the great reunion scene first, even though that's probably chapter 30 or whatever. But, and then I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to rework it, change things around. But for me, if I'm super excited about a scene or a moment, or I want to get to that. I want to write it out. And sometimes I will just have things that will just go round and round in my head. And I'm like, I have to get this scene out right now. And sometimes the scene ends up looking very different from where I started, how I originally wrote it. But I think that helps me with my creative process, because it's kind of like when you have something that you're really, really excited to tell somebody, and it's hard to focus on anything else. You just want to tell them right away. Right. So that's kind of how I am too. So I'll write those scenes that I'm really excited about, and then, I'll come back to it later. I'll rework it. And then I'll, go back. But that's kind of been my thing is follow where your creativity is leading you, follow where you're feeling passionate, because then it doesn't feel as much like a drudgery, like, oh, I got to write this. Okay. Another thing that I try to keep in mind, if I'm bored writing it, the reader's going to be bored reading it. Yep. So if I'm like, this scene is so boring, I'm like, all right, well then let's get rid of it, or let's change it up, because the reader's going to be thinking the same thing if I'm thinking it while I'm writing it,
I was just going to say that too. I'm like, they'll be able to tell. I guarantee it. People pick up on that so much.
Yeah.
When they're reading books, that's why it's like you can't just, I don't want to say you can't make stuff up, but like you want to make sure you plan well, and then you follow where it takes it. Follow where it takes you, because you never know what else you're going to think of to add to it that's going to make it pop and maybe attract a new reader that maybe wouldn't read that particular genre or book.
Right, exactly.
This one might be a little difficult, but I wanted to put it in there just because I thought it was kind of fun. If your writing process had a soundtrack, what songs do you think would be on it?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I always write with music, and I do have several different playlists, and I actually have a playlist that I write to a lot, and it's all songs that have love in the title. And so they're from, the last 50, 60 years, and they just kind of remind me of the different ways that love can be expressed, and the different times it can be expressed, and the different instruments you can use, and the different way people sing about it. And sometimes it's like a real up tempo, and sometimes it's like a, killer 80s ballad. And that's kind of, to me, like the ups and downs of a romance. So I should post that playlist somewhere. Maybe I should post it on my website, because it's a fun playlist. But that one always kind of makes me like in the mood to, like, write about love, I would say. So
people always love to see that kind of stuff. Like people would get bored if I posted my soundtrack, because when I write, like when I'm heavily writing and not just, I have an idea, it's classical music. Beethoven, Chopin, because I need something in my ears, but also if I was to put on any of my playlists, it's all stuff that I'm going to bop to, I'm going to sing to, and then I'm going to lose where I'm at.
Oh, yeah.
So I found that classical music covers the basis of having something in my ear, but it being neutral enough that it's not going to diminish any idea that may pop into my mind.
Right. Yeah, I found if I know the music well enough, I am listening to it with like half my brain, and I'm writing with the other half. Right. So I'll sometimes I'll zip through my whole playlist, and I'll be like, oh. And I'm a singer too. I love music, and so I'm actually able to sing along and write at the same time if I know the songs really well. I only do that when I'm at home, not when I'm writing at Starbucks. But
I wouldn't be able to.
So that helps me, I think, because I think the music kind of helps keep me grounded and keeps me like energized. Right. So
yeah, it's always interesting too, because I've heard people say, oh no, I have to be stone cold silent. I can't even write at home because I know I'm going to be distracted by whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's always fun to learn about things like that from different authors, because it's so fun to see the different varieties that people need in their space. Some people
Oh,
they could have
definitely.
4 white walls and they could write an amazing book. And some people are like,
Yeah.
nah, I have to have Gidgets and Gadsmos over in the corner. I have to have
Yeah.
music and 20 coffees and
Yep.
whatever the case may be. But it's so vastly different between person.
Yes. Yes. That is interesting.
Outside of writing and reading,
Mhm.
of course, what are some of your other favorite hobbies and things to do?
All right. I'm a mom. Like I said, I've got 2 daughters, and so I spend a lot of time with my family. Love to read. I love doing crafty things. I like being really creative. So, whether it's like painting wood crafts, I love seasonal decorating. So I have like tubs of decorations for each season. So I'm always like changing up the decorations in my house. I love going outside. I really like taking walks outside, walks in the woods. This time of year, I love just being able to go outside bare feet on the grass, sit outside for a while. Really enjoy um, getting outside. I like baking. I'm not particularly skilled, but I do really like baking, especially Christmas cookies.
Oh,
That's like my Nana's gingerbread recipe is my best
oh,
one. And like I said, I like to sing. I sing with a choir. I do, listen to a lot of music. And I watch a lot of Hallmark, like I mentioned, 'cause it's totally my vibe. But yeah. Oh, and I also have 4 cats. So, spend a lot of time with my cats. They're pretty quiet most of the time.
tell you what though, outside reading is probably one of the best things. Honestly, I got reminded of this because I was on took a vacation for my birthday last month, and we got a cabin in the middle of the woods, log cabin, middle of the woods, no cell service, no nothing. And the second day we were there, it just started pouring rain,
Oh no.
which was fine. And so I went out. They had this nice, beautiful log covered porch with tin, and I could have sat out there for 8, 10 hours.
Hmm.
Just staring at the forest and reading. Like it is just the most peaceful thing on the planet. No car noise, no traffic, no construction, no nothing. And I was like, oh, I got to do this more. And who's this one?
This is Teddy. He's one of my 4 cats. He's our friendliest cat, and he likes attention. So he decided to be
He's
part of
getting
this
it.
interview.
He's like, Mom, what are you doing right now? Like,
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
this?
That's right.
Why are
That's
you
right.
talking to yourself?
I know. He's a real sweet boy.
KM Warfield, one of our other authors, she has a cat, Muse, who does the same thing. I had an interview with her, and he would go between in front of the camera, then on the back of her chair, then on her
Yep.
head, then back to
Yep.
the front.
I know. I know.
They have a mind of their own.
They
It's
really do.
it's their time.
Yes, for sure. For sure. That's funny.
Um, would you say did your writing evolve over the course of writing this book at all, or do you think you kind of just drew on the skills you already had and the things that you had learned over the years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been writing for a long time. I started writing novels probably, I don't even know, 15 years ago. And I didn't start with romance right away. I wrote some fantasy for a while. I also tried cozy mystery. And I think writing those helped me kind of, explore different genres. And I realized that my favorite part of any book is the romance.
Right.
So at a certain point, I was like, I think I should just write romance and,
Right.
have some other elements to it. I mean, the time travel adds a lot of an element to it, but I realized that romance is my favorite part. So I think writing those other genres and just kind of going through the process of um, coming up with plots and connecting everything, going back. I used to be much more of, a pantser, as they say,
Right.
writing by the seat of my pants. And I would just get an idea and I would just go. And I had no problem cranking out the words, but like, was it a cohesive plot? So I learned a lot about going back through and being more organized. So I do still do a lot um, kind of off the cuff, but I plan a lot more than I used to.
Right.
Those writing all those early novels was really helpful to realize, like, yes, I have 80,000 words, but it needs a lot of house cleaning. It's kind of messy. So that was really helpful just to go through and do that. So now, and I used to not write by chapter. I used to just open up that Word document and just fly through it. And then I was like, oh, now this is kind of a mess. So I use Dabble and I write in chapters, which really helps me to stay organized. And sometimes I'll just open up a new chapter, write a whole bunch of notes in it, reminders for myself. Sometimes like even like the very last chapter of the book, just type out like tons and tons of stuff. And then I'll come back later and I'll write it and I'll add to it. So that also, like sometimes, you know, I'll be doing something else in the house and I'll be like, oh, that's a really good idea. I should write that down. So I'll run that, you know, stick that in chapter, or I'll just add this in somewhere.
Right.
I'll put it in. So yeah, I would definitely say I'm a more efficient and more organized writer than I used to be. But you know, you can always go back and revise for sure. So I think just writing a lot is really good practice. Just doing it and then going back and read it a year later, read it 2 years later, and be like, okay, there's some good stuff here, but also some stuff I could improve too.
Yeah. I had to learn that the hard way too, because I used to just, I to this day, I still don't plan chapters. I'm writing a series of books with Vicki Ann Bush, who's one of our other authors. It's a paranormal crime series. And I told her, I said, I'm sorry, but I am the worst at figuring out where chapters start and where they end, let alone coming up with names. I was like, so I'm just going to write. And then if you go in and pick where it needs to stop and start, I think we'll be good. Because one of the other hardest things too was when I first started writing, I just kind of went and didn't really truly outline. And then you have the problem of, oh God, what did I name that character? And you have to scroll like 50 pages back up to find the name and why you introduced them in the first place. And so it's just, I tell people, I'm like, even if you just keep a small outline of character names and what their purpose is, it will save you so much stress.
Yes. I always have another file that's just notes. And so I'll try it. And then for this book, and also this book is part of a 3-book series. So I actually have like a timeline about when characters were born, when they got married, when they had their kids, when they moved, you know, that kind of thing, because I'm constantly having to go back and be like, wait, was she born in 1902 or 1903? So I'll have to go back and look and check. So yes, it's funny, but yeah, you have to take notes on your own writing, because the book is so big. There's so many pages and so many chapters that it can be really hard to go through, and find everything. So yeah, I definitely take a lot of notes too.
Yeah, that's because when we write, I have a whole separate document that one is just notes, and it's an outline. The top half is an outline. The bottom half, whatever, how many pages, is just notes like, okay, we're going to make this person take this person's place and stuff like that, just to kind of, and then I just erase it as it's done. So that way it's kind of out of the way. But looking back, what would you do differently if you started writing this book today? If anything, I mean, there might not be anything.
That's a really good question. You know, I don't know if I would do anything differently. There were some scenes. There was one scene in particular, kind of like the climax of the novel, that I must have rewritten like 8 times. Like I was like, oh, it's not quite right. It's not quite right. It's not quite right. But, you know, I don't know. I think in rewriting it all those many times, I think I made it better. And I got it to where it kind of wanted to be. So I don't think I would do anything differently. The whole thing was kind of a process and a journey. Yeah, and I did, even as I was kind of getting into it and like halfway through it, I kind of was like, you know, I feel like this is bigger than one book. This could be a series. So I felt like I kind of, when I was writing, and I was thinking with the possibility of having a series in mind, which I think helped set me up for the second and the third book.
All right, this is off topic, but I just got to say this: the way he is sitting with your name on the screen looks like we have to redact his face for witness protection from the cat.
Oh no!
I just noticed it, and that's why I was chuckling. I'm just like, you see his ears and then the bottom loaf, and that's it. Oh Lord. It's always good when pets get in on it,
I
honestly. It makes
know.
it
Well,
more
they
fun.
they keep things interesting, right?
They do, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I had that thought, and I'm like, it's gotta be
He's
said
like,
out loud.
witness protection.
Oh, right. Um, so far on your writing journey, what has been the best piece of advice that you've received?
I would say keep writing, keep writing even when you don't really want to. I Some people say you should write every day, and then some people say you should. I don't think you should write every
Right.
day. There may be days in your life when you're, especially, if you're really busy, you're busy parent, busy with your job, that you're like, I don't have time.
Right.
I did that once. I was like, I'm gonna write every day. And when my kids were younger, and I got to the end of the month and I said, yeah, I wrote every day, but most of this is useless. I'm
Right.
not going to use this. It's not any good. So I would say, but it's also true. You're not always going to feel like writing, and it kind of like exercise, right? You have
Right.
to like ease yourself into it and start somewhere. And that's where, for me, writing the scenes I'm really excited about has helped. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, we can write this really fun scene, but then you got to go back and you got to tackle the harder stuff too. So I would say keep writing even when you feel discouraged. Write something. You can always go back and edit it. Also, I don't know who said it, but you can't edit an empty page.
Mhm.
So that's useful too. So and even if you decide to cut it later, it's okay. It was part of the
Right.
process. I also have another file where I keep stuff that I cut just in case I want to go back, and I usually don't, but just in case, I'm like, these are cut scenes. Okay, we'll just copy and paste it over here. So I have this extra rating. I didn't feel like I lost it. It's still there,
Right.
even if it doesn't make the actual final draft.
I've had people say that I've had a couple of people who actually do that in every book they write. And I had someone tell me the other day, they're like, I literally just wrote a book off of one of those scenes because it sparked something else and it became a whole nother. I think it ended up being like a prequel to the book that they had put out.
Oh,
But
that's
it was just
cool.
that one scene was like, oh, wait a minute, I could
Yeah.
do something with this. So
Yeah,
yeah, you never know.
exactly. Yeah, no, you don't. Or yeah, you could have a spin-off, or
Hmm.
that character could inspire some other story set somewhere else. So
Exactly. Yeah. So you just, yeah, never toss it away. Never discard, because it might just be, there might be a rainy day where you're like, I need a new project to kind of take my mind off this one for a little bit,
right,
and
exactly.
then it's start looking through your folder and you're like, oh, I can do something with that.
Yeah.
Um, be honest. We always like you guys to be honest as possible, but I love asking all of our authors this question, so people can kind of get a sense of what it's like to work with us here at CJM. But what has your experience been like working with us so far? And is there anything that stood out to you compared to other publishers and things?
Yeah, I've had a really positive experience with Creative James Media. I had been querying this book for a few months. I can't remember now how long it was. And, I had gotten some requests, some interest here and there. I felt like my book is not really set in any one genre, because it is romance. It's not a rom com, but it's not historical romance either, because it's not completely set in the
Yeah,
past. And it's also spice free romance. So it was kind of a combination of things that is kind of, it's a unique spot.
right,
And so I participated in small pitch, and Jean contacted me and she wanted to read my manuscript, and I sent it to her, and she was so enthusiastic, and it was so nice after getting a lot of polite, oh, this, I'm going to step aside, or I don't
right.
think it's quite the right fit for me. It was so nice to have someone be like, I love your book. I love your book and we want to publish your book. So that was really, really nice to have someone. And then the first meeting with her, she was so easy to talk to, and just really positive. And so that was really great. She answered all my questions. And the whole way along, I've really liked having the meetings that we've been having with other new authors. So I've got to meet some other new authors. So much information. I mean, I take tons and tons of notes every meeting, because I'm learning, I've been writing for such a long time, but publishing is new to me.
Right.
So there's so much to learn, and she's been really helpful. You've been really helpful with the social media stuff. So it's nice because it's a small enough group that I can get to know some people, and I feel like I have a personal relationship with Gene and with you, but it's big enough that stuff's really happening.
Right.
You know, there's a lot out there. The website looks really great. The marketing is really great. So it's really fun to be part of this publishing company that's just growing. You
Right.
know, that's getting bigger and taking on more and more things. So it's nice. So, you know, it's like it is kind of scary publishing and
Right.
putting yourself out there and doing the marketing, but it's nice to know you guys have my back. I've got a safety net, and that I can email you and be like, help, you know, and that you guys will help out. So
Right.
that's really awesome.
Yeah, the meetings are a newer thing. Honestly, we started that probably around the time we signed you, actually, because we're like, look,
Mhm.
we want to do some new things. We want to expand a little bit, but we think her and I were talking about it. I think the best way to do that is to give you guys more information, because
Absolutely.
a lot of you that we've signed recently are first time authors. Like, you've been writing for
Mhm.
a long time, but this is your first time taking that jump into actually signing and putting your work out there.
Yep.
And like you said, the marketing is a whole different world from just writing your book. It's a
Mhm.
whole different realm and beast within it itself. And we just figured, like, if we can educate you as much as we can on that aspect, you're going to walk away with 10 times more knowledge and be able to use that not only to market this book, but if you have another book that you wrote and you're like, I want to pitch this to somebody else, you now have that
Mhm.
knowledge to take with you
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
down the road and use to further your career. But yeah, I'm glad you like those. Those are always a ton of fun. We try to, because I think we're up to like 50 some authors total now.
That's
Um,
great.
so because I've been here for almost 2.5 years.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely it's a group to keep track of, but I would say, we're starting to try and give you guys more and more to tools to be able to use. Um, where is the best place for folks to keep up with you if they want to see what's new and kind of the lead up into Falling in Time?
All right. Well, I am active on Instagram, and I also have my website, isabelleranney.com. I started my YouTube channel. I don't have a whole lot up there yet, and also on Facebook. But I would say Instagram and my website is probably the best place. I'm also on Threads too.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm hopefully gonna get my newsletter started soon. So that would be great for people to sign up.
And I will leave her socials all linked in the description so you guys can go and easily find them and check them out if that's something you want to drop a follow. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Isabel, thank you for spending some time with me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate it.
Of course.